We're going to call this meeting to order. If you can, put your phones and watches and dinging devices on silent so we don't get too much interference during the meeting. We have Joey on the phone. We are missing Joe McCormick, and we are missing, I am drawing a blank. Who are we missing? Marshall. No, Marshall's there. I don't know who's on this board anymore, guys. Sorry, Nick. There we go. There you go, sir. So, commissioners present. We'll go that way. Joey on the phone, Marshall, Andy, Matthew, and Kevin. First item is going to be approval of minutes. This is from the February 11th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review? And if so, does anybody have any comments? Make a motion to accept?
Second.
We have a motion by Kevin, second by Marshall. Are we okay to do this without a roll call?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. So we are approved on those minutes. Moving down to old business, we have none. We're already on item 4 for those keeping score at home. First item is going to be a public hearing for approving a request for the Harper Grove Townhome subdivision on Groveland Road. Parcel ID number is 601-273-30100. 24-hour storage is requesting a plat amendment for a property zone CH. Do I have a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Motion Matthew, second Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. Is this a Wade?
Yeah, okay. You may recall this was just recently approved by y'all in the construction right now. It's for a 30-lot residential subdivision townhouse development. This is given a conditional use approval for the townhouses. At this time, the applicant is requesting a plan amendment to change the internal street shown there on the plan from a private street to a public roadway. It was originally approved as private. Under the UDC regulations, there's really no difference in construction between a private and public street. So under his request, the street would become a public street once it is actually at the end of the warranty period, once it's under construction and accepted, and then it would be the responsibility of City of Ocean Springs for maintenance and repair of that street. And that really kind of concludes what I had said about it, and the engineer on the project. If you'd like to have questions for us. Thank you.
Before we go live, does anybody have any questions for Wade?
I do. Wade, what's the benefit to the city by doing this?
Well, the benefit to the city is that the responsibility for maintenance is with the city, and any kind of issues that may come out in the future in terms of maintenance, in terms of repair to the street, would be the city's responsibility, which probably has greater capacity, better capacity to do repairs and repaving than a HOA of only 30 units would have.
Thank you.
But I think it would ensure a more better maintained community in the city's interest.
And I want to kind of piggyback off of something you said as far as the construction, and just make sure that Public Works has been engaged, engineering's been engaged, everybody, all the people that actually have to deal with it know that it's coming, and they're...
The reviewing agencies in the city have reviewed this and no objections to it.
Okay. Kevin, I'll kind of answer sideways from what you asked too, but I know the subdivision behind me was installed private, and it was just a nightmare. It's deferred maintenance becomes very, very, very deferred, and kind of not offering. So, all right, we are in a public hearing. Did the applicant want to speak? Is that you, Freddie? Name and address first, please.
Freddie Fountain. I may just have to.
Freddie Fountain with Fountain & Associates, 13334 Seaway Road, Suite 202, Gulfport, Mississippi. I just kind of want to further go into what Wade explained. This project was by staff recommendation, previously presented and approved based on a private roadway. The developer never wanted to do a public roadway. Previous staff recommended doing a private roadway. And
You said the developer never wanted a public roadway.
no, he never wanted a problem.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant, just want to make sure. Yeah.
So we asked at the final plat process if we could go ahead and ask for it to be a public roadway, and we were told no, that it had to go through as it was approved originally. So that's what we're here for today. And knowing that we were gonna try to get the city to take it over for maintenance, we included Public Works and Engineering in all the proof rolls, all the infiltration testing, low pressure air tests, vacuum testing on manholes. They were involved in the full testing process, just like any other subdivision would be required in the city. And also, the developer had already put up a 3-year warranty bond.
Okay.
So,
Anybody have any questions for the applicant before we go to the audience? If we need to get you back up, we will. All right, is anybody in the audience here to speak either in favor or in opposition to Harper Grove Townhomes plat amendment, private to public roadways? Anybody in the audience, Harper Grove? Once, twice sold. Do I have a motion to close public hearing? Motion Matthew, second Kevin, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are out of a public hearing. I know I'm going to do roll call eventually, I promise. All right, we are out of the public hearing. We've heard from the applicant. Does anybody have any additional questions, comments, concerns for staff, for general, for Freddie, anything?
No, make a motion to approve the final plat amendment for Harper Groves Townhome Subdivision, PID 601273330.100.
All right, I have a motion by Kevin. Second by Marshall. Let's do a roll call vote. Marshall? Matthew?
Aye.
Andy? Aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Joey?
Aye.
All right, that will pass unanimously. I assume that'll skip a meeting, correct? And that'll be on the board first meeting in April for final. All right, moving on. Item 4B, approve a request for a short-term rental permit at 1112 LaFontaine, Unit A. Parcel ID is 610800005.10. Adrian Radakovic. The property is zoned R1. Do I have a motion to go to public hearing?
Second.
Motion Matthew, second Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in a public hearing. Mr. Wade?
Okay. Keep the story brief. This is, as you said, on the south side of LaFontaine, just to the east of the intersection of Dewey. And this is a request for a short-term rental permit for Unit A, which is the accessory dwelling unit in the rear of the property. It's the, has gone through all the inspections, reviews and such that are required of short-term rental. We did send out the notice as required, and it has, we have received no comments back from the public regarding this, so it's coming to you with a recommendation for approval of the short-term rental.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything for Wade?
Which short-term permit zone is this in?
This is in the
Density.
density
The
zone.
density zone?
Correct.
Okay.
You want to go ahead and ask numbers?
I was just thinking, Kevin.
Yeah, we can go ahead and ask numbers.
All right. I'd like to get the numbers on density zone and what's out there and what is available.
Okay. This will, the cap, of course, the cap in the density zone is 55, and currently there are 52 approved, so I guess this would bring us up to 53 with 2 more slots available.
Is there anybody on the waiting list?
There is a waiting list, yes, and there's
If you mean-
5 or 6 on the waiting list.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
All right, was the applicant here? Did y'all want to speak? And if you don't want to speak on the front end, if anybody says anything you want to rebut, you're welcome to defer until later.
Yeah, we do.
Defer, okay. All right, so we are in a public hearing for the residential short-term rental permit for Unit A, an accessory dwelling in the rear of the property on LaFontaine. Is anybody in the audience here to speak to the short-term rental on LaFontaine, either in favor or opposition to short-term rental on LaFontaine? once, twice sold. I assume you don't want to rebut anything said? All right, do I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
I'll say motion Kevin, second by Marshall, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, any additional questions or comments? I will say from a personal standpoint, not necessarily a commissioner standpoint, but I like the accessory dwelling use short-term rental because it kind of more or less guarantees you got somebody right there willing to, checking on the people there, so. All right, do I have if no other questions or comments, do I have a motion?
Make a motion to recommend approval of short-term rental located at 1112 La Fontaine, Unit A, with an annual renewal and compliance with the Ocean Springs short-term rental ordinance.
All right, I have a motion by Kevin, I have a second by Marshall, roll call vote, Marshall?
Aye.
Matthew? Was that aye?
Aye.
Andy, aye, Kevin?
Aye.
Joey?
Aye.
All right, so that would be unanimous, so the way it works is it'll have to be re-advertised for public hearing, so we can't get it on next week's board agenda, so it'll skip that one, and you will get final approval on the first meeting in April. First Tuesday in April, same place, same time as you're at right now, for the board. Keep my paperwork in order here. All right, there we go. All right, so item C has been deferred. Item C would have been the public hearing for the commercial subdivision final plat for 6419 Bienville Boulevard. This has been deferred. My understanding is they weren't quite ready for final plat level. Is that correct, Wade?
That's correct. It's specifically associated with the Chipotle restaurant and the Chick-fil-A, and they are moving ahead with their subdivision development plans and the Sharpies, the chip company at Chipotle. So it is moving forward. It's just at this time the requirements for a subdivision final plat are still in the works.
Okay. So if anybody was here specifically for the commercial subdivision final plat, if anybody wanted to know when Chick-fil-A is coming, we're not going to talk about it today. So that will be deferred, that will be re-advertised and put on another agenda. We don't need any kind of motion on agenda modification, do we?
It was already on.
Perfect, got it. All right, item 4D is not a public hearing, but we are still going to offer a chance for residents to speak. This is going to be to approve a request for a lot split at 0 Rayburn Avenue, parcel ID number 601-37006.000 and 601-37008.100. This is the east side of Rayburn, south of DeSoto, and north of Porter Avenue. It's undeveloped, so there is no address currently assigned, and Mike Fritz is the applicant on a RM2 zoned piece of property. Wade, you want to start us off?
Sure, thank you. You said this is a request for a lot split of the property that's shown on the screen. The specific parcel that is under consideration for the lot split is the larger one on the north side of the screen there. And the property is in the RM2 multifamily zoning district. And given that the lot sizes, the minimum lot sizes in that RM2 district are, really there's no minimum lot size for apartments. Minimum lot width for single-family detached or attached houses is 15 feet. So given that underlying zoning, the proposed lot size and lot width are consistent with that zoning district. And we cursor down one more to show the actual plan. We got to measure this, I had to twist this to get it on the screen, but the proposal would create a new boundary line at this point on the larger of the two parcels to then create a, let's see, it's a, just looking at those dimensions here. The proposed lot one will be just over 28,000 square feet. Proposed lot two would be just under 16,000 square feet with 100 feet and 60 feet of frontage respectively, which are adequate in this area for a single-family dwelling. Now, in association with this, though, it's not actually part of the lot split. Will be dealt with administratively through a lot configuration, since there are two parcels involved in this. The rectangular parcel to the south and the proposed Lot 2 will have a slightly reconfiguration in them, simply for the purpose of providing more of a buildable area. So that's where we are on this lot split and lot reconfiguration. Lot reconfiguration is an administrative approval through the EDC. You received in your packet an email from Mr. Ringo, who owns the property on Jackson Avenue, to the rear of this, had various questions about the eventual construction of the property. And I think that summarizes what I had to say. I know would add that the applicant's representative, Donovan Scruggs, did submit a couple of documents that are included in your report, explaining the proposal and where it's coming from and what the plans are. And also he is here to make a presentation, and I'll conclude what I have to say, but if you have questions for me, I'd be glad to answer them, or Mr. Scruggs make his presentation. Thank you.
All right, so before we go anywhere else, let's do a little housekeeping. So everybody's had a chance, I hope, to read Mr. Ringo's letter. Because it came in a little later than the deadline, do I have a motion to accept the letter and put it into the minutes? So I have a motion by Matthew to allow the letter to be in the minutes. I heard Kevin first. Motion Matthew, second Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So this letter will carry with this, and the board will get a copy of it for the audience. In general, they have concerns with water and drainage, traffic safety and access, and construction phase items, tree protection and historic considerations. A lot of these, in my opinion, are not necessarily what we're looking at today. These are, some of these, the water and traffic and all that will be reviewed by engineering at a later date once we know what's actually going on there. But we're happy to discuss that as we need to. Wade, I did have one question before. Did anybody else have anything for Wade before we get the applicant up?
Nope.
So one question, just to kind of, I don't want to say trick, but, if we do the lot split for lot 1 today, it does appear, being an RM2 zone, that we're still going to have a compliant lot split, even before they put some of lot 3 into lot 2. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct.
But from what I can tell, even without the extra from 3, they're still meeting the minimum lot widths and everything that is in the ordinance.
That's exactly correct. I think
Okay.
Donovan can probably explain to you better their rationale for configuring like they have.
Yeah, and that's fine.
That's exactly the case.
I just want to make sure we weren't shooting ourselves in the foot from like a weird timing issue or something. I didn't think we were, but I just wanted to confirm you saw it the way that I was looking at it. So,
That's correct.
anybody else got anything? Donovan, you want to speak? Name and address at the microphone, please.
Sure.
All right. Good afternoon. My name's Donovan Scruggs, 317 Pine Drive in Ocean Springs. And did we get this flipped over to the presentation?
Just now, I'm gonna let you drive it in just a second.
The property, as Wade mentioned, is on RM2, which is a multifamily district. The property to the north of this is DeSoto condominiums, and the property to the south and east of this, or south and east of this, is the Dell cottages. So the property abuts on basically two sides, multifamily uses. And I think that's why you have the multifamily zoning for this property. I would say that the property is considered to be downtown Ocean Springs. However, it is not in either the downtown overlay or the Porter Avenue overlay. So the intent here is not to do short-term rentals or assume that we're in short-term rental by right. The plan is to create 3 new lots, which really is a, if you had two lots and you did 2 lot splits, you would have 4 lots. So this is actually 2 existing lots with a net increase of only 1. So we're really not going as far as we could if somebody was just trying to increase their number of lots to the maximum possible. So I think it's a pretty conservative request to get where we want to go. Let's see, there we go.
You can control it from the cursors up there.
Who's controlling the cursor, that me or y'all?
That's you.
That's me. That's not me.
So close.
Somebody else is doing something with that. It just, I did not start drinking yet, so I promise this has nothing to do with.
You want to try this one?
It's where the mouse is. Here you go.
Let's just circle.
Golly. It's insane.
What do they say about trying to teach an old dog new tricks?
I don't know. There we go. All right. Jesus. All right, now I'm supposed to hit enter, which you can go with it. Those are the apartments to the north. These apartments actually are adjacent to the drainway that is on the north side of this property. Of course, the bottom you see Dale Cottage. It's been there for, I think I saw something where they were constructed back in 1929. So they've been there for quite some time. This is the zoning of the property, as you see to the rear of us, to the east R2, to the across the street R2, to the southwest is basically St. John's and all of the facilities related to the church. Wade mentioned the zoning, I won't get too much into this, but there is no minimum lot size requirement, and the lot width is 15 feet, which we greatly exceeded that to try to create 3 individual lots that are suitable for single-family residential units. This is the configuration of the 2 lots. The red line goes around the 2 lots as they exist. We plan to create lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3. One way that I have justified this is that if you did 2 lot splits, north parcel and south parcel, and then combine the 2 middle parcels into 1, that's where your reconfiguration comes in. So we are allowed to do this, by ordinance, and we do meet all the minimal requirements of the ordinance. The property has a drainway on it, as I mentioned, but if you look at the stakes that are on the ground and Google imagery and everything else, you'll see that a good bit of the drainway, especially on the west side of the property, is actually on the north side of the property line. It's not on this property. There is drainway on the property to the rear, but it's not that you see along Rayburn. The plan is to build on the the southwest corner of that property, and as far as the drainway can get. We know this is going to go to the building department and everybody else. Can't encroach in the drainway, can't cause water to back up or displace or anything like that. So, but we do know that all throughout Ocean Springs, there's examples of houses that are built in close proximity to drainways. Matt, you're familiar with one on Forest Hill that sits right in that drainway. There's one right behind this house that is on Jackson. And then the property across the street was also built in a very low area. They're all over the town. Ishii House is on Lover's Lane. That's kind of what we do in Ocean Springs because you got a lot of drainways. The property can be developed without this lot split. I think if you see the advertisement that ran associated with this conveyance, they were actually trying to sell it as a potential multifamily development. So this is actually doing something a lot less than what is allowed by right. Currently, it's a moratorium on multifamily, so I think going forward, individual lots makes a lot of sense. I will say that the moratorium is only for 20 units or more, so I don't think that we would hit that level of units, and they could probably build 12 units on this site pretty easily, based on the density requirements. Property is consistent with comp plan. There's a lot of policies in the comp plan that talks about infill development. Vacant parcels in downtown is what's considered infill development. In close walking distance to downtown, providing more people who want to be close to Ocean Springs. So I think we're very consistent with the comp plan in several areas. And actually, guys, I'm just asking for you to approve this lot split reconfiguration. I'm not asking for any variances or anything like that. It's a straight by the book application, and I think you guys see it the same way. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Fritz is here as well. He'll answer any questions, and we'll do what we can to make you happy.
Anybody have anything for Donovan? Donovan, as per usual, if we need you at the end, we'll let the applicant bookend it if you feel like you should. Thank you. All right, so we are not in a public hearing, but as discussed, we do allow the audience to speak. We do request that y'all keep everything to, I'm gonna read it from the top. Invited to address the Planning Commission for up to 3 minutes for each item for each speaker for a maximum period of 30 minutes. We'll take all comments under advisement. Please identify yourself before speaking, and that would be name and address. So if anybody in the audience is here to speak about the Rayburn Avenue lot split, now is your chance. Just name and address at the microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is Sydney Wilder, and I live at 811 Porter in Dale Cottages. And even though your size limits may be acceptable, this property goes straight downhill. It flooded completely in Katrina. And I don't know where you're going to park cars for that many units. And the traffic coming out on Rayburn, it seems like it'll just be problematic. And I think there are environmental issues that should be looked at. There's a big oak tree right on the corner of the Dale Cottages, right next to that parcel. And the big limbs hang over it. So would they destroy that tree? That's something, it's a huge tree. It's a huge oak tree. I just don't see how you're gonna get units in there with parking and access and driveways and all that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sydney. I'll speak to that real quick. And Wade, if I misspeak and you see it different, please chime in. But so what we're doing today is we're looking at the ordinance, and we're looking at this property, and we're saying, like, can this legally be divided out the way they want to do it? What we don't have in front of us, and this is standard operating in Ocean Springs, and maybe they already have plans. I think Donovan mentioned houses, but honestly, the lot split predates, they can't do plans until they have this. So we don't know where they're going to put any houses. We don't know if it's going to be, I think you mentioned 3 houses, but again, if your guy folds and sells it, anybody can put anything on RM2. So we're not going to be able to like really address traffic now. However, they will have to put together plans. That plans will be vetted by the building department. Depending on what the plans are for, it may come back to a public, come back to us. If it is anything that would have to be platted like a multifamily would come to us. If it's one house, it won't. But in any regard, there will be building code will look at things like traffic. The police get involved on traffic, I believe. Drainage would be with the building code. I mean, obviously they can't go in and blot that drain out. I did note there is, especially towards the north, there's a lot of floodplain, but I mean, there's hurdles you got to do with floodplains, but there are ways to build them and build them correctly. So we're not going to be able to say like today, like, that oak tree, I'm not sure that I know the one. I'm sure I've seen it, but I don't look at it every day like you do. But we do have the protected tree ordinance, so there are steps they have to do to show that they're not going to impact anything like that. So it's not something that we can address today. And these are similar issues. What you said is really a lot what Ringo said as well. And it's things that need to be looked at. The city will look at them before anything can be built, but it's just, we don't have it today, and just the order of operations, the way the ordinances are set up, this has to kind of predate before they know what to do, what they can do. You got anything to add, or
Well,
does
so
this?
you covered it pretty well. Just one thing I wanted to add that I left out of my talk is that the southern parcel is within the Old Ocean Springs Historic District. So there, any kind of dwelling house to be built on that would also have to go to the Historic Preservation Commission for their review to be sure that it complies with the Historic District guidelines.
Yeah, one more step on that one. It's good,
So
good point.
there's even an additional layer of review for that.
I think you put that in our packet
It's a
too, that it
report, I
was.
just-
All right, so thank you, Ms. Sydney. Who else is here to speak about Rayburn Avenue? Name and address at the microphone, please. Missing a page. What's the second page of your name?
Ronald Morano. I live on 635 Jackson Avenue. I own the property just east of this they're talking about. This is wet area. You can't even walk back there without sinking up to your knees. During Katrina, that went under 10 foot of water during Katrina. And all the houses, that old district, were on piles, was on piers. If they try to go in there and drive piles to put that many houses up, they're gonna bust all of our sheet rock, all of our pilings on both sides of the street. That place, all of y'all need to get out there and walk it. Cause they ain't 10 foot of property that can be, that is level from Dale's Cottages to the north. You got about 10 foot you can walk on. The rest of it's all downhill.
Straight
Believe me, you can't even walk it without sinking up there.
And rotten snakes galore.
Hold on, man.
That's wet ground. I mean, that's foggy-head turtles and everything that live in that drainage.
Okay.
There ain't no way you can build 3 houses back there. There ain't no way. Y'all need to walk it before you approve anything.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ronald.
Yes, sir.
Name and address, if anybody else wants to speak, name and address at the microphone, go ahead.
Aaron Ringo.
Just, yeah, do it at the microphone
Yeah.
so they can hear it on the minutes later, please.
Aaron Ringo, 615 Jackson. I'm the one that put the letter in. Sorry, I didn't know the exact date.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Thank you for approving it.
Yeah, yeah. It's just something, it's like a housekeeping thing we gotta do.
Yeah, I had just kind of, not so much as a comment, but I had questions, and it is in regards to the rules with the, so like, as an example, the average driveway is like 9 feet, you know? So like, when you do like the computations for like, it's 15, wide or whatever, is that like taking like the driveway and then adding, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't understand that. And then when someone says something like, there's height requirements, but then, or, you can only build so high, when you look at the property, and the property itself is straight down, and they have to build up, like, that in itself is building. So I don't know, like, I just kind of wanted to bring that up. It's just something I kind of think about, because it's like, okay, we can only be, build 4 feet tall, or 4 stories tall. Like, what's a story, for one, and then, what is the base level? Like, can you just build a base level up the size you want? Like, I just didn't know these kind of things. Because as they've said before, and that's the reason I put it in, I know this is not the thing for it, but it's saying we are concerned as residents in that area because it floods. That is where our water goes. So to say like, like when you say it's swamp and stuff, go back there, there's swamp. There's marshlands there, there's running rivers, running creek where that picture is. So I would highly recommend, lot split, there's no legal reasons not to or whatever, but for when it goes forward for whatever they're trying to build, like, we want the city to be involved to help protect us, and have it not look horrible, whatever they build, and functionally let our water run off. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. No, thank you. I'll address a couple of those things you just said. You wanna go ahead? Go ahead. I talk way too much. I wanna hear you go.
I'll let you follow up. Donovan, I do have a question for you. has there been a delineation study done on the property in regards to being AE zone back there?
Yeah, I mean, it is in a flood zone.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon for this area. Elevation requirements are, associated with a flood zone.
Wetlands?
I'm sorry?
Wetlands?
Well, I mean, wetlands and,
Yeah, 95% wetlands.
No, the only reason why I'm asking,
Make up information here.
the only reason why I'm asking is looking at the county flood map on there. It's like, your AE zone, you have to build to a base flood elevation of 17, so that's +1.
Yeah.
And I didn't know, if they had a study done on it, a delineation study is gonna dictate the size of what you're gonna be able to build there.
The two southern lots on this are going to be able to be constructed relatively easily as far as.
But the question is the big lot that has the drainway.
Right. If I recall, the elevation of the site ran between 8, 9, maybe 10 feet in that area. So there will be some elevation, pilings or something along those lines to build that house. But it will comply with the flood requirements, Matt. I mean, it will be elevated like other houses in Ocean Springs, issue houses and what have you. I don't see that as being any more of a problem than the houses that are being built along East Beach that are in a flood zone, or in that case, even a V zone.
All right.
As far as your wetlands goes, a delineation will be done, and of course.
The reason why I asked is I would have liked to seen that done before on the property because I don't want to have a situation that you go in and do a wetlands delineation on it and then get stopped. And now you have a lot split where they're going to say you're going to have to do something to mitigate the property to be able to build on it.
If the property is unbuildable, it will remain basically unbuilt.
Right.
If this property is indeed a natural drainway that everybody likes to use as their ditch, then I would suggest a conservation easement or something along those lines to where it goes in that direction and not be the burden of a property owner.
Okay.
This would at least allow him to develop the two lots that are most buildable on this property and to leave that property to the north available for whatever else. I do think that a primary issue with this property is not so much the natural drainway that's there, is the culvert that is underneath the roadway that is probably ill-sized. If it was larger, then more water would go through there and it would not back up on this property. In my opinion, that's what's probably happened over the past 60, 70 years. It's a man-made issue because of the location and size of that culvert.
Okay. Thank you, Donovan.
Sure.
And just kind of going back to Mr. Ringo's question, some of the things I remember saying, like, as far as the flood zone, so yeah, they may have to be, looking at Matthew's phone, the elevation's going to be somewhere around 8, so they'd have to be 9 feet in the air, which is pretty common. Usually if you have to go 5 feet, they tend to go 10, so they can park underneath it anyway. But, it's kind of, we're in like a chicken and an egg argument in a way, like the delineation for wetlands. I mean, that's a considerable cost. I think it's going to have to happen, but I'm sure but does a landowner do the delineation if he doesn't know he can get it split or not? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of chicken and egg, and wetlands isn't, it certainly adds another level of regulation. You're getting into federal permits. I mean, there's still ways that you can mitigate. There's still ways. I mean, we won't know until the building plans come in, I guess, is
Right. No.
kind of the punchline.
My questions were more of hypothetical after a lot split, but in this situation, looking at something that is, got a lot of concern. There is one of the lots I definitely could see it's something being built on, but creating other two lots that, I don't want the, owner of the property to run into a situation that he's stuck with a lot that's being split now. So that's my concern. But
Right. I agree. I know what you're saying. I wouldn't argue with it, but I would say that it's a lot easier to collapse lots back together if you had to. After the split, it would still satisfy the south property. And then one other thing I wanted to say, Mr. Ringo, we, on the floodplain, the ordinance has a whole separate, correct me if I'm wrong, Wade, don't give me the line, but we have a whole separate floodplain development section in the ordinance, correct?
That is correct.
So being in the floodplain, and the floodplain's mentioned throughout, but it also has an extra layer that the city has to go through and connect. One thing you asked about was the 4 stories. Wade, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that in a floodplain, we go from the BFE as far as height requirements, correct?
Exactly. That is, you start measuring for height at the BFE.
Yeah. So that was one of your questions as well.
What's BMP?
Oh, I'm sorry, base flood elevation. That's the FEMA map number, the established base flood there.
Thank you.
Um,
Can I say something?
Yeah, at the microphone, name and address, please. I was about to call. Actually, I'm sorry, you care if she goes first? All right.
Go ahead.
Good, thank you.
I'm Jane Farmersberger. I'm the manager of the Dell Cottages.
Okay.
And everything everybody said, it is a floodland. You can't even walk out there. It's terrible. But you probably can't answer this question, but I'm thinking, I'm talking about the owner that owns the land, also the owner that owns the Dell Cottages, Gary Christopherson. He still owns the land in the back. Maybe he should be talking too. Because if he decided to sell his property, he would have to have a driveway on the other side of the road near the DeSoto Apartments.
I'm not sure which property we're talking about.
It's right back of the property that's sold right now, and I live in the Rayburn house, okay? On the Rayburn Street, the big white house across from the church. And here's my house, and if I look out my kitchen window, there's a pink flag. That's where the owners has bought the land. Well, Mr. Christopherson owns the rest of that land back to Reno, back there, all to to your house, the privacy fence there. That's gonna be a question too. But anyway, I was just concerned about it. I'm just talking to,
She's talking about
Is it?
the dog leg right here.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, but developed on it. Okay. All right. I see what you're talking about, Ms. Jane. Thank you. Go ahead.
Steve Howell, 647A Jackson Avenue. And the low section that we're speaking about, it abuts my property. So,
Okay.
concerning the drainage ditch, it's nowhere near adequate for the amount of water that comes through there. I fight erosion constantly. And the problem seems to be the culvert on Rayburn is a third of the size it ought to be. I wished I brought my phone, I could show you a river running through there, and just a normal heavy rain, it overflows the banks of that drainage ditch. It's just so inadequate, so that would have to be addressed for sure.
Okay.
That ditch drains all.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's his turn. We don't want to talk out of
That's
turn.
fine. What do you say? That particular area drains a large part of downtown Ocean Springs, and it's, you wouldn't believe it. It floods our entire yard coming from Jackson Avenue straight down to it. There's no way to contain it. They put in a 30-inch culvert, and really it should have been 60 inches. You know, it should have been huge stuff. The amount of water that comes through there is just unbelievable.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Wade, do you know of any, I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay, I didn't want to kind of make sure I wouldn't cut you off. Wade, do you know if Public Works and or engineering has any kind of ideas, studies, thoughts? Is this culvert? I mean, it sounds like, I don't want to speak for anybody, but it sounds like the lot split is definitely secondary to some drainage concerns, which.
I'm not aware of it. That hasn't come up in the discussion about it. I don't really couldn't decide that's something that our project manager would need to address. I can certainly talk to her about that before this goes to the Board of Aldermen, and maybe have some answers at that time.
We're just kind of, maybe get it on Public Works radar just to look at it and see, and, you know, I gotta be careful what I say up here, but I mean, I know it's a pipe you are talking about. I can't say that it's undersized, but I recognize there's a potential for that. So it sounds like that might just be something to put in the, kind of the hopper, so to speak, for the city. I mean, I know we got drainage problems everywhere, but just make sure that that's kind of being looked at. And I guess some of that'll kind of have to come out as plans start getting developed for the project as well, and maybe that kind of, maybe there's kind of a, coincide, you know, the city can kind of run and do whatever the city does and have the private guy do whatever is on the private side, so.
Some coordination like that would probably be appropriate.
Yeah, but if you don't mind, just kind of making sure that's on Public Works and Engineering's radar for just consideration. All right, thanks, Steve. Name and address, please.
Hi, not to beat the dead horse, my name is Cindy Blitz, and I live at 711 Mosley, which is the corner of Mosley and Rayburn, which is just west of this property. In fact, our property line going down Rayburn is about the same length as Mr. Fritz's property line. So I'm very familiar with that property, and if you would look at our neighborhood, the topography of our neighborhood is such that everything, all water drains from the west going east. It drains from the south going north. So the water kind of goes through our yard, across Rayburn, and into this property, and then it comes from Dale Cottages down and goes into the apartment complex. And I have a picture of Katrina, the water on DeSoto, if you wanted to see it. He was right when he says, when it's a heavy rain, we laugh because we have Lake DeSoto on the corner of DeSoto and Rayburn. Every time we get a heavy rain, it fills up with water. And my concern is if you build on this property and take out all that, all the trees and the weeds and everything else that's grown in there, then you're gonna have all this water eroding down into what you call it a drainage way, I call it a creek. But it's gonna be draining down into the creek's gonna fill up, it's gonna flow, it's gonna overflow then into the apartment complex and flooding out all those lower garages there in part of the DeSoto condominiums now, it's not apartments. But that would be my concern. It's the same concern as everybody else with the drainage. It is terribly wet in there. And I have no issue with a house being built on lot 1 because it's high. It's up level with the preschool, St. John's Preschool, and where Jane lives in the Dale Cottages. And then going downhill, I can see where you could maybe get a house in, maybe on what is considered in the plat map as lot 2. But after that, lot 3 is swampland. So that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Gotcha. That was Miss Sydney, is that correct?
Cindy?
Cindy, okay, I'm sorry. All right, anybody else in the audience here to speak regarding Dale Cottages? I'm sorry, I heard Dale Cottages too many times. Anybody here to speak about Rayburn, which just so happens to be north of Dale Cottages? Anybody else? Donovan, we tend to let the applicant kind of rebut or bookend, I like to call it, so if you have anything to add, I want to hold you to your 3 on this one though.
Sir.
Of course, you beat it last time, I'll give you credit.
Tom Spruance with the contractor in Ocean Springs. If you look at the surrounding property, it's like property especially to the west, across the street. It's been cleaned out. Its driveway is there, but it's grass. It's cut. It's mowed. Trees, vegetation has all been removed. That same thing can happen on this site to an extent. I have walked the site. I didn't sink into my knees or anything like that. I do know there's areas that are wetter than others, but of course, there's no desire to put anything on the area that is, boggy or adjacent to the drainway. As stated as shown in this image earlier, toward the front of the property, the drainway actually is off the property, is on the adjacent lot. So in my opinion, there is room to construct on that bottom lot. And if there's not, then there just won't be anything constructed on that lot. But I do know that the lot split does allow the property, the development with the construction of new homes to be more toward the south. You've got 2 lots that would be off of the driveway completely. But I do think the larger lot, which is I think 28,000 square feet, which is basically 2/3 of an acre, has been sized large enough to accommodate the driveway. So I know drainage is an issue. We will definitely work with the Public Works when we begin the development of this. If it's recommended or is necessary, we will work with them on doing the additional cover. I do say that cover and that road is so low at this particular location that it will probably top the road before it begins to actually back up at anybody's house. And the references continue to be made to Katrina. And guys, if we use Katrina as a benchmark, it's where you cannot build, Ocean Springs would not exist. Everybody here had some impact by Katrina. Marshall, I believe your house was washed through, and you've not seen anything since or anything before. So let's not use Katrina as a benchmark. Everybody knows that was a bad day, but let's not, dictate the way we build this community. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, so we are not in a public hearing, no reason to close, so let's hear some commissioner input. Thoughts on what you heard, thoughts on the application as presented. Just to kind of reel it in to our charge today is, and I hate to sound dismissive, but we're looking at lines on a piece of paper. We don't have any plans, we don't have any drawings, we don't know what's going to go there. It's been discussed that it would be single-family homes, but if it wasn't and it sits idle for 10 years and the lot split, then anything in RM2 can go in there. So just kind of keep that in mind, that we don't know what the impacts to drainage and trees are because we don't know what's going there. But anyway, whatever else y'all have to add there for some discussion.
I mean, lot splits are legal, they conform. Kind of if it was left as is, 3 smaller lots than 1 big lot. In the future, there's less potential for more high density.
Actually, yeah. No,
And so I think having 3 lots reduces the potential in the future of having, higher density in that area, which would cause more problems. So for that,
a higher density causing more traffic.
More traffic, more drainage, more everything. So I'm in favor of the lot split as presented.
Anybody else have anything? Forget about Joey. Joey, you got anything?
No.
Joey?
Yeah, I'm listening. I heard that. No, I'm good. I feel like that a lot of the stuff that we talked about tonight is for stuff in the future. If we are able to split this lot and he's able to fall within the codes right now, I feel like the stuff in the future should be handled in the future.
Well, I'll add to that you don't have plausible deniability. That there's a drainage thing to discuss, and as the plans are developed, that they need to be very cognizant of and discussed well with the engineering department, or engineering and public works. Anybody else have anything to add? Marshall, Matthew?
Yeah, I got one thing. I think the key thing to remember is our job is to make sure that anything comes to us, we look at the ordinance, any other regulations that apply to that particular item that comes before us, and if it meets all the requirements, then we would recommend approval. If it doesn't, then we would not. In this case, I think what you all have identified is the things that happen after this lot split. And I think you're well advised to get together, really make sure everything is delineated, and then track very carefully the next steps in the process. And that's the Board of Aldermen will be hearing each of these steps as they go forward. So the next step in this process, if we approve this, it goes to the Board of Aldermen. That's when you make your initial comments and concerns noted, and then make sure you follow very closely the follow-on process, because that's going to be key. And it's been pointed out, there's all kinds of wickets that have to be gone through because of the nature of this property. That's all I have.
Okay. Matt, do you have anything to add?
You know, as presented to us, we do have the right to follow the ordinances, and it does fall within the ordinances, except for the fact that, you know, we're dealing with a piece of property that is hypothetically going to be built on with lowland, wetland. You know, if we approved tonight, it would move forward, just like Marshall was saying, but if we denied, it would be appealed and go before the Board of Aldermen. For a situation like this, when we are dealing with pieces of property, our ordinance needs to be looked at to maybe have some other things be assessed before being presented with a lot split like this. So I hope that the developer and everything will do a wetlands delineation on the property to see what can be built on it respectfully to the property. That is my final comment. So.
I will say I don't know Mike Fritz. I assume you Mike right there? Yeah. All right, so I don't know Mike, but I will say that I know of Mike. I know he's been in the business for a long time, and I know he's not just some dude that came in and doesn't know what he's doing, and you know, this is his first bite at the apple. So I will say, you know, I think that, you know, that's a good thing when you have a property that has some issues to overcome as things go down, is knowing that it's a guy that's done a lot of houses. So I think there's a benefit to that as well. Okay, well, anybody want to take a stab at a motion?
I make a motion to recommend approval of the lot split on Rayburn Avenue, PIDN 60137006.000 and 60137001.100.
Okay, I have a motion to approve from Joey. Do I have a second on that? Second. I have a second from Kevin. Marshall?
Aye.
Matthew?
Aye.
Andy? Aye. Kevin?
Aye.
Joey?
Aye.
So that will be unanimous. The way this one will work for everybody here and for Mike and Donovan is not being a public hearing. It does not need to be re-advertised, so the final decision with the board will be next Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
That is correct, in this room.
Yeah. Tuesday, March 17th, right here, same bat time, same bat place. All right, so we are out of agenda items. We do tend to like to have a spot where the public can come and speak on any non-agenda items. So if you have anything else going on in the city that you'd like to address to the Planning Commission, now's your time to do that. Once, twice sold. It's not a very popular time, but we get them from time to time. What about commissioners? What do y'all have to add? Joey, I'm gonna start with you since I'm on the phone. You're on the phone and I'll forget if I don't. You got anything tonight?
I'm good, thanks.
Marshall, what do you think?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn without. I've still got my commissioner form. I want to throw a thank you to all the planning, but another thank you to Wade. Wade has come out of retirement to keep this city afloat, so we do appreciate you doing that, Wade. And I'm not going to stop saying it until you leave us again, and it'll be another sad day.
We'll see.
All right, guys. I had a motion to adjourn from Marshall, second by Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.